Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, your home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. Now for today's video, we're going to be providing a follow-up on Tier 1 Silver. This is a company we initially covered last week. We've now invited the CEO on to give us an update on this organization, as there's a lot of exciting stuff going on in the silver space. Now before we get into the interview, please take a second, hit the like button, you guys. It's a big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join. And let us know in the comments section below if you're currently holding shares of Tier 1 Silver, your outlook on the silver sector overall, and how you think this company is positioned versus its peers. Now with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, we're going to be providing a follow-up on Tier 1 Silver. Now this is one we covered initially on the channel last week. The share price has really been receiving a lot of attention over the last couple trading sessions. So we wanted to invite the president, the CEO, and director himself, Peter Dembicki, to the channel to talk about this organization and why he feels there's so much attention and interest towards his company at this point in time. So Peter, thanks so much for being with us here today.
Thanks for having me, Bryce. My pleasure.
Yeah, you're most welcome. So first and foremost, I know we just introduced this company a few days ago. So can you give us a quick high-level summary of yourself and what Tier 1 Silver is all about?
Sure. Well, I'm president and CEO of Tier 1 Silver. I've been in this position for about 3.5 years now. And Tier 1 Silver is a really unique story. It stands out in the sector, in the markets for a number of different reasons. But when we launched this company in the summer of 2021, we had really favorable market conditions. And even though I'm confident in my abilities, the stock went crazy, right? We had $30 silver. We had zero interest rates at the time. The market was really healthy. All the kind of risk on capital, if you will, was performing really well, regardless of the sector. And we took advantage of that. And our share price went ballistic out the gates. We went to $1.90 a share Canadian. It was about a $250 million market cap based on rock samples. They were good rock samples, but I don't think any rock samples demand a $250 million market cap. But since then, what we've experienced in the precious metals market, in the sector of mining and mining exploration, and just general risk off over the last 2.5 years, as interest rates got jacked up, capital got pulled from the system. I don't know if any other sector was hit as hard as junior mining sector, but now just recently we've seen a nice little perk up, and so Tier 1 Silver is it almost like a derivative to silver in a very powerful way. It's because we have such a unique story. Our asset is based in Peru. We have extremely high grade assets. We had one drill program that we were only able to pull off when we first launched, and it was extremely successful with the emergence of not only silver, but gold and copper as well. And so I think now with the recent uptick in the precious metal sector and a little bit of life in the venture space, people are seeing our story and saying, hey, these guys were there. They've come all the way down to where they were. Now they've perked up a little bit, and it always runs really nicely in a hot market, which is nice.
Most definitely. And yeah, we'll get into those rock samples. They might be quite impressive for a $250 million market cap there, Peter. So let's get into your properties. I know Curibaya is your flagship property, so I'd like to hear more about that one. And then you've also got some Copa claims, which are a little less known, and I thought we could shed some light there. So why don't we get into the properties now?
For sure. So Curibaya is our flagship asset. It's based way down in the south of Peru, like right above the border of Chile. And when we sent our team out there 4 years ago to go find us a precious metals target, they came back at Curibaya, which is a really unique story because it didn't land us on this traditional precious metals belt where we thought we would be, 100, 150 kilometers inland in Peru, but right on the coast on this prolific copper porphyry belt. And our neighbors are some of the largest copper and silver as a byproduct producers in the world. Cerro Verde, Cajoni, Tocopala, Quellaveco, these are just 40, 50 kilometers to our northwest. There's a gap in the system where Curibaya landed, and then these major producers start up again in northern Chile. So along this trend, some of the giants in the industry, the largest producers in the world, are our neighbors, but we had a precious metals target, which was really, really intriguing. And so when we went out there, we acquired this land close to 17,000 hectares. It's a big piece of property. It's 100% owned. We really didn't know what we were going to come across. And, in any kind of natural progression of geology, you start off on a raw piece of land, you go do some rock samples just to kind of figure out if there's a geological indication there's something worth pursuing here. And in the world of silver, we talk about a couple terms. High grade, which in the silver world is 200, 250 grams per ton plus. You get excited about anything, half a gram gold. This is what really perks geologists' interest. They go, oh wow, there's something here. When we got our first batch back, we hit silver grades up to 300,000 grams per ton silver. We hit gold grades up to 2.5 grams gold, but our top our top rock sample was almost a kilogram of gold. Like I think around 948 grams per ton gold. So these grades, 80 plus samples over 1,000 grams silver and 2.5 grams gold, emanating from this 5 square kilometer kind of footprint was insane. No one had seen grades like this. And so this is when we listed our company. People were super excited. We raised $13.5 million at $1 Canadian at the time, just based on these rock samples. People were like, where did these grades come from? We then followed that up with like a nice, robust channel sampling and trenching, because that's the next best thing you can get to drill program. And we were able to replicate these grades again, 12 kilos, 6 kilos over 1-2 meters in veins, longer intercepts like 20 meters or 300 grams silver. So that gave us the confidence to bring out the drill. And we did our very first program in fall of 2021. And we did 16 holes, 5,000 meters. And again, this has never before been drilled. So you're just trying to get a sense of where things are. I'm a little bit older than you, I'm sure, and a lot of your viewers might not resonate with this, but there's an old board game called Battleship. And when you start off, you have a blank board and you like C4, miss. Okay, we can't go there. C6, hit. Okay, does it go north, south, east, west? And you add geology and the third dimension to that, it's really tough to go and find. And the fact that we did 16 holes and pulled out 40% of these holes of economic grade was a huge success. And then as more data emerged and we took time to learn about the property and hired consultants to see if this was on the right track, the market fell out from under us, and we haven't been able to get another drill program in the books since then. And so it's been a bit of a waiting game for tier one shareholders, but now with the markets picking up, it's getting really exciting again.
I like the 3D Battleship analogy, and I do have that game actually. I'm 34, so I'm not too young of a spring chicken. Hey, now I wanted to ask about Peru, because I've heard a lot of CEOs talk about Peru, how desirable it is. Obviously the grades and the amount of resources there, as you alluded to, but talk to us in terms of mining jurisdiction, how political environment there is, infrastructure. What makes Peru so interesting?
Yeah, Peru is actually a fantastic place to operate. There has been some political turmoil in the past, but you look at who's present in the country. The major mining companies, the Teck, the Anglos, the Vales, the Rio Tintos of the world, the Sumitomos of the world. You look to some of our biggest local mining guys that we look to see where to go. Fellow by the name of Ross Beatty, who people know very well, very active in Peru. And we know that there's a famous saying, politics in Peru is a short-term game, mining is a long-term game. Mining has been a part of this country since the very, very early days, right? All the empires that have gone through there, it's been such an incredible place to operate, and such a mineral-rich country that for the most part has remained underexplored. And it's, largest reserves of silver in the world, third largest producer of silver in the world, I think second largest producer of copper in the world. It is huge, and this is one of those countries that you can go to and stumble upon something world-renowned. This is a place where you can still find those huge game-changing assets, where sometimes you go to North America or some of these other jurisdictions that are once upon a time considered safe, and I kind of equate it to like a picked over Las Vegas buffet. All the easy stuff has been discovered, and it's getting harder and harder in those jurisdictions to find these big world-class flings. But if you go to Peru, you can still find them And we love operating there. And currently, the political climate is fantastic. I'll find something to knock on here because I like quiet. If you had asked me this a year and a half ago, there was a mix-up with the president and a change of order, and it was looking a little bit scary there for a little bit. But when things quiet down and are boring, that's what I like. You Google Peru a year and a half ago, things looked a little bit unsteady. You Google Peru now, and you probably get your best pisco sour recipe and your travel tips to Machu Picchu, and that's the way I like it. I like boring, I like quiet, but for the most part, we're an exploration company. So we fly under the radar. We're not paying, we're not producing, so we're not, don't have heavy taxes that we're giving. We're not employing thousands of people. So we fly under the radar. We've gotten fully permitted with no delays. Everything's on time. The biggest thing in Peru, and not only in Peru, but worldwide when you're dealing with not only mining, but natural resource companies, is social and the community. Do you have a good relationship with your community, and do you have access to your project? Because I could have a gem of an asset that is located somewhere that I cannot access, and it's not worth a lot to anyone, especially a publicly traded company where you have shareholders to honor. It's not worth a lot. So we have one community, they're true partners with us in this kind of barren area that has no agriculture, no residences, no archaeology, and it is a very, very small environmental footprint whatsoever. It's desert terrain. So it's a fantastic place to operate, and the country has actually been really favorable for us.
Yeah, I appreciate the context there, and I agree. No news is generally good news for political environment. And yeah, just listening to you talk about that, like a 5 kilometer square land package, your geologists were able to find in an entire country. It's just crazy how needle in a haystack that is to find these type of results. But very impressive. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about, you just mentioned you're an exploration company. What is the monetization strategy here, Peter? Are you guys going to explore, develop, and spin this off? Are you looking to partner, joint venture, take it to production? What's the goal here?
Yeah, so a little bit of context there. I mean, before I was CEO of Tier 1 Silver, I was a investment advisor at a firm called Canaccord Genuity, which is Canada's largest independent advisory service. And when I came over, I made a career shift, and it was largely due to people. At the time, we didn't really know what we had on our hands at Curibaya in Peru, but I came over for the people. My founder, Ivan Bebic, and his partners over the years have been extremely successful in the exploration world. Now, we have a saying that floats around here is, you get paid a lot more as a shareholder and a stakeholder when you find it over developing it and producing it. And so we are all about the discovery. And so our past successes in our group of Keegan Resources in West Africa in the early 2000s, followed it up by Cadian Resources in Mexico and selling it to Agnico before we even had a resource in place. We are all about making that discovery, packaging it up, and selling it before it ever goes down the road of development or production. We don't have those expertise. We don't claim to, and we know that the majors do. So it's the power within our group. We take on that risk in the early stage, and we've earned it. I mean, these last 2.5 years have been absolutely brutal, but to go and find it, to build it out to a point where a major says, that looks really intriguing, we're going to take that off their hands for a large premium to shareholders. So that's the business that we're involved in, with no desire to go further downstream, down to the development road.
Gotcha. And that makes sense. Play to your strengths, right? And we talk about the inflection points in terms of value add for mining companies or exploration companies. And you're right, you often do see those big moves right at the start, at the discovery phase. So that's great, Peter. Now, moving along, kind of a segue to that, near-term catalysts. So you talked about some of these big developments over the last couple of years. You're starting to see some life in the sector. Obviously, the silver price is doing really well right now. What are some catalysts that investors and viewers should watch for?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we never got our second drill program completed. And we feel like the story was just starting to kind of unravel and give us a lot of light as to what we have on our hands. And when we finished our first drill program, we were in love with our own project, but we wanted to make sure that we weren't blindly in love. And so we hired 2 world-renowned consultants to come down to the property and check it out and say, give us an unbiased, independent view of what you think we have on our hands here. And they said, wow, this is actually really intriguing. You guys are on the right track. All of your guys' top intercepts came around 1,900 meters of elevation. as you know, in Peru, that is what our geologists call beachfront. These guys are used to operating 4,000, 4,500 meters in elevation. So it's really close to the coast and really low elevation. But also all of our top intercepts came around 100, 150 meters from surface, so quite shallow, and we weren't hitting at depth. And so these consultants said, this is a story about elevation, as you know, it's low, and it's a story about erosion. So over the last 60 million years, much like all of those big, massive giants to our northwest, again, these are huge copper producers and silver as a byproduct. Once upon a time, these massive copper operations had a precious metals window sitting on top. But over 60 million years, it's been eroded off. You guys still have that precious metals window intact, but something is driving the precious metals to the surface and it's being eroded off, which is why your intercepts have come so shallow. But if you go north on your property to this Curibaya corridor, you have another 500 meters of elevation that has not yet been eroded off, where you're gonna hit your number one silver targets. And so we're like, great, let's run with that thesis, we love it, let's build out our paths, build out our platforms, let's get going. They said, hold on a second. We're not sure if you guys missed it or you weren't looking for it, but we studied a few of your deeper drill holes where you may not have hit the silver and the gold, but we found that the base metals were picking up. The moly, the presence of the heat, the fluid flow, the alteration, the presence of a lithocap and porphyritic dikes emanating on surface. There's every indication you guys are sitting on top or nearby of a big copper porphyry intrusion. So this brought a huge amount of interest to the story. Obviously, given where we are in the system geographically, it makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure a lot of your viewers have been watching the markets in the last couple of years. There's a story called Hercules Silver in Idaho. And these guys were drilling silver for quite a lot of time with not a ton of success. And then they send one deep drill hole down through the silver and it tags a copper porphyry and boom, story ignites. Barrick gives them $20, $30 million the next week. And all of a sudden they have this dual system. Very similar to Curibaya, except we haven't been able to send those testers down to go test for that copper porphyry, but we have that dual story to our name, which is massively intriguing. So we've spent the last year and a half measuring 10 times and hoping to cut once and get really ready for a drill program. So over the next 8 to 12 months, we are really focusing on getting that next drill program coming in. But as you know, the markets have been pretty bad. And it's not cheap to run a drill program in Peru, but it's worth it. And the capital just wasn't there for us to do it. So it's been more just survive in this market, keep things in good standing, cut a lot of the fat, get rid of a couple ancillary projects that you have that were big option payments on and a lot of costs socially to keep going. So it's really focused. Curibaya is 100% owned, 17,000 hectares, a lot of targets to go on there. So we did more exploring on that property and found rock samples that are 40 grams gold, copper samples that were 6% plus copper, more kilo plus silver. And these are areas that we just spent a week on looking for and have that. So the property is so fruitful in that way. So over the next 10 months, the goal is to get another robust drill program in there, go test for that silver. As much as we want to spend the money and go test deep for that copper as well, because we know the impact that could have, our shareholders are predominantly silver focused, and that is what's driving the share price. That's the performance you see in our share price for the last couple of weeks. Silver's been peaking, getting a little bit more attention now, and it still has a long way to go. When we launched our company, as I mentioned, silver was $30 an ounce. We know that the all-time high for silver is 50. Gold is now hitting highs. We know what silver does. Silver lags gold performance, and then it whipsaws higher. So we're only just starting to see. So my hands have been off the button. I've just been watching. Thank God I haven't done spending marketing or promotion dollars. This has just been hand-to-hand combat, getting this story in front of as many new people as possible. And you've seen the performance in the market that we've seen. So the catalysts to come is getting that drill program done, which would be really exciting.
Sure. Yeah, and you mentioned timing is everything. It's been a bit of a waiting game the last couple of years, but if we've waited millions of years for the erosion to take place, I'm sure we can wait another 10 months, eh? So
No,
that's very exciting stuff, and it does make sense. We've talked about silver a lot on the channel and all the industrial uses, in addition to the precious metal status it has, and the torque we can see on silver in relation to gold, like you mentioned there, Peter. So exciting stuff for sure. I was going to talk to you about the spot silver prices as well. It sounds like we kind of addressed that, but do you have any inkling or indication of kind of the macro view on silver right now? Are we hearing anything unique right now?
yeah, I mean, nothing has really changed over the last couple of weeks to really propel this. I mean, people say gold and precious metals move on, geopolitical uncertainty, and of course, there's no shortage of that in the world right now. What's going on in with Russia, Ukraine, and in the Middle East, and even in Asia. A lot of threats out there, and for sure, people move to precious metals for that safety. But at the same time, on the macro level, I don't need to educate your listeners on monetary policy and just the unlimited money printing that we've done, and it's bound to play catch up to that. And as I mentioned, the silver price, what it's doing right now, and how it lags gold. But there is also a fundamental reason for that on the industrial uses. You said this for the first year, this last year, in the last 9 years. Demand for silver has outstripped supply. It was quite plentiful, but then with the emergence of the solar industry, which has been the major driver for this, you have to add another 200 to 200 million ounces of demand, which puts it into a supply deficit for the first time. And again, silver is that perfect commodity in my eyes. It has all the qualities that we know and love about gold, jewelry, investment, hedge against inflation, safe storage of your money, protection against the dilution of fiat currency. Has all of those qualities, but it has all the use cases of copper that we know and love. No one's out there flaunting copper jewelry or anything like that, but it has tremendous use case and a huge component to the green revolution. It's still the number one conductor of electricity. It's still in every one of our electronics. It's still necessary. I mentioned about the solar as well. So it has all of those qualities. And it just moves. People love it because there's a low barrier to entry on silver. You can stack bars, you can buy a lot of it, but people know how fast it can move, and that is the appeal. When I got hired onto Tier 1 Silver, my chairman, Ivan Bevic, said, okay, we know gold bugs have a certain thought. They have a certain thing, and gold moves, but it's heavy lifting. Silver investors are, you'll find out. They're an interesting group. And I'm like, I don't really understand that, but let's see. And then I got to find out pretty quick when silver was moving, and people cannot find their favorite silver name fast enough because the train is leaving the station. And at the time when we listed our company, companies were actually changing their name from ABC Gold Corp to ABC Gold and Silver just to ride that wave. And so we've stuck to it. We've had the opportunity to go down the copper route or go down the gold route, or one of our other projects had a big nickel find on it. And I said, no, let's stay the course, because I know silver will have its day again, and we're finally starting to see that, which is really fun.
Well, for sure it is. And it's in the name for you guys, so they don't have to look far to find Tier 1 Silver. We do talk a lot about Bitcoin mining and gold and hard money on the channel, and the inflation and national debt and all the things you talked about that plague the fiat currencies as well. So I'm a strong advocate of gold, silver, and any of those hard monies like that, Peter, as well. So excellent interview. I think we covered a lot here. You've definitely educated me on the story and kind of some of the history that led you to this point. I'll throw it back to you for any closing thoughts, but excellent interview, Peter.
Thank you so much. No, I think just to round it out, if your investors are looking to get involved in a silver exploration company, there's a guy named Rick Rule, who a lot of people know about in our industry, and he had a great saying. He said, when you're investing in the junior mining exploration business and you want to make a big win, there's two main components. One is people. Have management, have the geological technical team been involved in success before. Our technical team has had many successful finds and exits for shareholders, and that is incredible to have not just one on your resume in your life and in your career, but to have multiple is incredible. Our management team has had successful exits. It's one thing to make a discovery, it's another thing to be able to package it up and sell it off. Capital markets too. I'm not a geologist, but I know how to handle the stock market, speak to shareholders, tell the story. And we have a fantastic geological team that I lean on for the geology. Two, you got to go to a country that for the most part is underexplored. Peru is that perfect country that is so amenable to mining exploration, and it still allows us to go and make that huge world-class discovery. So those two components alone really provide Tier 1 with a lot of rocket fuel, and it's a great story to listen to.
It sure is. Yeah, you can check both of those boxes off the list. You guys, if you're looking for exposure to precious metal, silvers, Tier 1 silver may be worth a closer look. A great place to start your due diligence. Peter, we really appreciate your time today. You guys, if you're still watching, hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe. And of course, leave a comment in the section, specifically if you're already a shareholder. What do you think about Tier 1? What do you think about their projects and your outlook for the silver precious metal market over the next few years here? Peter, thanks so much for your time. We're looking forward to our next visit.
Thanks so much, Bryce. Appreciate it.